Hello, I am a member of Texans for Accountable Government, and I wanted to talk about the privacy policy of the ERIC. So, well, you mentioned one thing that the Fusion Center won't be storing information such as medical information, things that aren't pertinent to an investigation, things of that nature, but the privacy policy does not restrict that from ever being the case, and so that's one of the issues that we have. But we think that it's absurd that a citizen of Texas would have to request their own records through the Texas Public Information Act, and that the general public cannot access individually identifiable information on themselves. That being said, we feel that it is the duty of the government, of any government agency, to provide a clear and concise way for individual citizens the correct information being collected and held about them. The grievance process listed is neither clear nor concise. Section 7, Record Retention, Part E of the ERIC privacy policy states, persons wishing to access data pertaining to themselves should communicate directly with the agency or entity that is the source of the data in question. Yet it also says, the ERIC privacy officer shall be the individual responsible for receiving or responding to such inquiries and or regarding information held by the ERIC. Which is it? Does a person contact ERIC when they have a complaint, or do they contact the original agency? And how will a person know what agency is collecting that original information? The difference needs to be clearly defined and laid out ahead of time. I'm going to read you a little fun part here. Whenever somebody calls as the information run by the Terrorist Screening Center, if they get handling code 2, the person queried through this search may be an individual identified by intelligence information as having possible ties with terrorism. And then the proper procedure for a police officer is do not alert this individual to this notice. Do not arrest this individual unless you have evidence of a violation of a local, state, or federal statute. Now, if that's the case, they're keeping it secret that information is being held on that, even though they don't have criminal predicate. And that is something that very much concerns us. As of today, the average citizen of Austin has no idea whether they have information held pertaining to them in the ERIC, or will have it held in the ERIC. This is not the sign of a free and open society. Every individual has the right to know what information is being held about them, as long as it is not part of an ongoing investigation based on criminal predicate. The individual should be given 2 options, and this is one of my recommendations for the privacy policy. The one, they should have the ability to opt out of the ERIC holding any personally identifiable information about them that is not based on criminal predicate. And 2, all individuals, organizations, or businesses should be notified when personally identifiable information is put into the system which is not based on criminal predicate. This is why we need to hold off with the privacy policy until these issues have been addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. Bring us 2 clear recommendations. Trey Reginella. Did I pronounce your last name correctly, sir?
Reginelli.
Reginelli.
Hello, I'm also with Texans for Accountable Government, and I just wanted to follow up with Mr. Weir's comments. Since the inception of the War on Terror, law enforcement and national security resources, once used as a means of protecting America from foreign attack, have been increasingly turned on our own citizenry. This is not without precedent. The use of the security state as a means to track, coerce, and or deter peaceful and constitutionally protected action has a long history in the USA. For instance, the FBI's Counterterrorism Intelligence Program, or COINTELPRO, was conceived in 1956 to increase factionalism, cause disruption, and win defections from inside the Communist Party. However, its operations soon included nonviolent women's and civil rights groups, as well as protesters of the Vietnam War. The final report of the Church Committee's hearings on the FBI's COINTELPRO noted, many of the techniques used would be intolerable in a democratic society, even if all of the targets had been involved in criminal and violent activity. But COINTELPRO went far beyond that. The Bureau conducted a sophisticated vigilante operation aims squarely at preventing the exercise of First Amendment rights of free speech and association on the theory that preventing the growth of dangerous groups and the propagation of dangerous ideas would protect the national security and deter violence. And key to the ability of COINTELPRO to carry out its abuses was unrestrained access to personal information. Safeguards such as the Privacy Act of 1974 and the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, both instituted after the Church Committee hearings, have been weakened or even dismantled in the current war on terror. As with cases during the 60s and 70s, the anti-terror intelligence apparatus has been used to spy on citizens who are expressing a political viewpoint. This is found in Texans for Accountable Government's report and recommendations concerning the ERIC, and I believe all of y'all have been sent copies of that. I'd just like to wrap up by saying, I believe Chiefs Carter and Acevedo have good intentions, but we must guarantee that their successors are not able to exploit a weak privacy policy. We have an opportunity to make ERIC the national model of a fusion center that respects citizens' rights.
Thank you very much.
Morgan Hargrave. Good evening. I'm Morgan Hargrave. I work for Texas Impact. We're a statewide interfaith organization based here in Austin. And we started on a lot of these issues trying to explain to our members and people we work with, because the faith community has long been involved in issues of criminal justice, law enforcement, and just generally creating safe and welcoming communities. I have a publication that we did for them, and I'll make sure this is attached out to each of y'all. Here in Austin, when we started talking to people, our concerns focused on two main areas. One was making this process as open and understandable for everyone, including the public and policymakers, as possible. And so, as Chief Carter mentioned, we had our first public forum last month in early February at St. John's United Methodist Church in North Austin. And we have the second one upcoming next Wednesday, March 10th, that evening. We had to change the venue, so my colleague is finalizing that, I think, as we speak. So in the morning we should have a new location. We can get that out to everybody here. So I'd like to commend Chief Carter and APD in general for working with us and being a partner on that. Our second concern was that of oversight, very broadly. And so I'd like to second the idea that the ARC officials report on a regular basis, perhaps to this body present or practically to an ancillary body to this. I would say that I think that needs to be a formal procedure. I think that needs to be codified in the privacy policy before it's approved, rather than just a as needed basis. I think that should be a formal policy. And I'll end there so we can get to everybody. But those are the two main issues. And again, I'll get back to y'all probably in the morning about next Wednesday's community forum.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
you.
Chandra Seymour.